Assalamualaikum everyone. So today I'll present the book from Leila Aboulela. The title is Elsewhere Home. So firstly, let me introduce the writer of the book. The writer of the book is Leila Aboulela. She is a Sudanese British author. She was born in 1964 in Cairo. She grew up in Khartoum, but then she moved to UK for the studies, and there is where she experienced a lot of migration experience, and that what influenced her writing that we read today. So some of the notable works of Leila Aboulela would be The Translator, Minaret, Lyrics Alley, and Elsewhere Home that we'll be talking about today. So some of the overview that I'll be talking on this video is, firstly I'll start off with introduction, and then key point 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we'll move on to conclusion. So first of all, I'll start off the presentation with introduction of the book. This book is a collection of 13 short stories, and it's being set in a lot of various locations such as Khartoum, Sudan, London, Arab, Egypt, and Scotland. This book mostly will be talking about people that is experiencing two cultures in the same time. So the story explores a lot of themes like identity, love, and the idea of home through not just a place but also in someone else. So the first key point would be migration and exile. In this key point, we'll see how the character experience being far from their homeland, and at the same time the longing for the familiarity in the place that they migrated to. So the first excerpt, I take it from the museum, page 157. This excerpt is being said by one of the main characters called Shadia. She is a Sudanese student in Scotland. In this excerpt, she described some of the guys in Scotland have earrings on, some of them have blonde hair, some of them has long silky hair that they can show off to the world. She is a woman, but she cannot do so. But what's important here is that she experienced a culture shock in Scotland, where back in the country, in her culture, there's no such thing. All the men dressing would be short hair, no earrings, so it is such a culture shock for her here in Scotland. So next is also from the museum, page 177. This is an excerpt taken from during the time when Shadia, she went to the museum in Scotland with her Scottish friend Brian. She expressed the feeling of alienation by visiting a museum in Scotland, where she described the artifact as iron and copper little statues, where it symbolized a distorted and incomplete representation of her African heritage. Next, this is an excerpt I take from The Ostrich. The Ostrich is a story that explores a relationship between a Muslim woman, a strained relationship between a Muslim woman and her British husband, Kevin. So, in this excerpt, she confessed that she is torn between both of her cultures in Khartoum and in London. In Khartoum, she feels very vibrant, she feels authentic, and she feels her life is fulfilled. But when she's in London, she feels as if she's in a depression state of life. Next, we move on to key point 2, which is intercultural relationship. So in this key point, we will explore about a romantic relationship between man and woman that is from a different culture. And we'll also be highlighting about the challenge of these unions. So in the story Majid, there is a Muslim man called Hamid and a convert woman called Rukia. She converted because she married to Hamid. And the statement here that I took from this excerpt that makes it obvious that Rukia is the converter, because the statement that he said, she had not always been Rukia. She once was someone else with ordinary name, a girl behind the counter in Bank of Scotland. Rukia is a Scottish woman. So the act of changing her names makes a deliberate break from her past and a new beginning. So the name Rukia could symbolize that she is a convert. Next, this excerpt is being taken from the aromatherapist's husband. In this story, there is a character called Adam. He is a Muslim man, and with a woman called Elaine. She is a Christian woman. They're a couple. But then there's one day Adam tells his family that he wants to marry Elaine. And then his family objected because there's too much difference between the religion. But Adam and Elaine reject the objection and they continue to get married. Next, this quote from Something Old, Something New highlights a moment of defiance of a brother of the main character. In this excerpt, it says that he looked irritated. He's actually irritated because of the difference between the relationship between his sister and a Scottish man. His family is disapproved of the relationship with her sister's father because he's a Scottish. Next, we move on to key point 3, which is cultural identity and displacement. In this key point, we'll explore about how the characters being involved in two cultures at the same time. So the first excerpt is being taken from Somewhere Maze. There is a girl called Nadia. She is an Arab, but she grown up in London. So her culture must be rooted from Arab, but then she lives in London for a very long time. That makes her a Westerner. So whenever she went to Arab, visiting her family in Arab, all her cousins, she will always feel out of place. Not because they're not being kind to her, they're kind enough. It's just because that she doesn't understand the language and the expression of the Arab. So she always feels out of place a lot of time. And then she said that she has never developed a friendship between her cousins. It is because that she feels there's so much difference between them, even though their roots are the same. Story, we can see the struggle between the culture that she was born into and the culture that she lives in. Next, from pages of Fruit. So this excerpt is a description of the main character. She always feels like she's an outcast in the migrant country. She always craves for recognition from the local and the students in the class. Even she was very young at the time, she was 13. So next we move on to the boy from the kebab shop. So in this excerpt, there's a line saying, Kasim grew up with Christmas and hegemony. So Kasim's experience of celebrating both Christmas and hegemony, which is the Scottish New Year celebration, suggests that he was raised in an environment that is embraced both Western and Scottish culture. But there's one problem. His name is Arab, but his experience or culture is more towards the Western and Scottish culture. So whenever he's with the Arab, they'll question him about his culture. But whenever he is with the Scottish, they'll question him about his name. So he always feels a displacement in between both of the cultures that he's living in. Next, we move on to the last key point, which is women's experience across culture. In this key point, we'll delve into the unique struggle of Muslim women in not prominently Muslim country. So, the first excerpt is taken in The Ostrich. In this story, as we know, there is Muslim and a British man that are married. So the Muslim woman lives in Britain. There's one day, her husband told her that he disliked if she walks behind him a few steps, because all the English people will think that his husband oppressed her since she is in all black because she's Arab. It shows how the Britain view Muslim women in their eyes. So he refuses that she walks behind him a few steps. Instead, she should always walk next to him so that she doesn't look oppressed by her own husband. So the next excerpt is being taken from Pages of Fruit. The phrase, "you understood that the West image of the Muslim woman." The speaker is the main character's mother. She points out the stereotype of how a Western culture views women. How the Western always view Muslim women always being oppressed, silenced. So this stereotype is very common in the West. And the speaker mother rejects the limited and stereotype. This statement does not accurately represent the diversity of what a Muslim woman experiences in Western countries. So finally, we're into the conclusion. So this book, Elsewhere Home by Leila Aboulela, it beautifully shows the struggle of living in two different cultures at the same time. The story also highlights the strength of human spirit, the identity, the beauty of living in it, not just struggle, but also the joy living in it. I personally feel that this book has left me with a better impression of what a home means. It's not just a place, but also a home in another people's heart, and at the same time, it's also being peace with ourselves. That's all from me. Thank you.